Hello and welcome to another episode of Visceral Musings. My name is Cody Reed, and it is Wednesday. It's actually Thursday, which means we're behind schedule. But it also means that it is time for Season 2, Episode 10 of Visceral Musings, the season finale. And my guest today is none other than a multimedia artist, somebody who's been on the show several times, and honestly, what is a season of Visceral Musings without Nicholas Oz Perez? We got to travel all the way up to Sholo so that we could shoot this episode in his apartment, and it was very special to me. Today, we talked about the death of art appreciation. We even got to talk about mending our relationship and recontextualizing some of the things that we choose to enjoy. And it was very special and important to me. I can't thank you guys enough for sitting and sticking with me through every single episode of this season, and I am so happy to present to you the season finale of Season 2. Let's get right into it. Let's boogie.
I'm gonna fucking bust.
That little twink motherfucker has got me in such a chokehold. I want the full thing, fully erect in me. Go piss, girl.
There's some juicy dicks out there.
They were hungry. Soggy wad of tissues in your hand.
Excellent musculature and a perfect ass.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Visceral Musings. My name is Cody Reed, and what would a season of Visceral Musings be without Nicholas Perez? How are you doing, Nicholas?
Hey, good, man.
I don't have one of my cute little long intros. This is the very first instance of Visceral Musings traveling. I'm petting a pug. What's your dog's name again? One more time? Soup the pug.
That's Soup.
We are traveling. We're coming to you live at the time of this being recorded, Thursday, August 1st, at Nick's apartment, which is where I used to live. Not same apartment, same complex. So
yeah. It's the Fuck Shack, TM.
Mm-hmm. It says that out front, and that's how I found the place. It is interesting though, like coming home, not only to like this apartment complex, but like also just being in Sholo, because it's like it's comforting and it's also disheartening how it never changes.
Yeah. No, I mean, I was talking to somebody who started it where I work. Mm-hmm. They are like new to the area.
Here you go.
Yeah, that's the one. That's the one. They're new to the area, and they were like, "Oh, wow, it's so nice that the cow ranch just moved. You know, I'm sure that kind of thing happens all the time." And I was like, "No, actually, I mean, like, I could list on a single like legal pad all of the changes that have happened here in the last at least 20 years, give or take 50 years. You know what I mean? Like, there is very little change, at least since I've lived here, year 2000 forward. Very little change.
We got a couple things not planned today, which is kind of interesting. Initially, I think we were talking about the movie Role Models, but I actually I thought more about the other topic that you pitched me, which was, you know, like, I don't remember how you put it, but it was like movie, like / artwork fatigue, like the excitement.
Yeah, the death of art appreciation.
Yeah, I can rock with that. I think we can make do with that one. That's what I've been saying a lot is country boys make do, and that's what we're going to do today. I did want to point out that coming at it from this angle, being in Sholo after having the week that I've had has been like, because yesterday, so in real time, yesterday was when Braden's podcast came out, and it was something for us because like our friends didn't know that we were on speaking terms with each other, like because we hadn't been for months, and like having everybody like it's the first episode where I've had like multiple people in my like hitting up every single DM, liking the stories, and like responding or reaching out to me and personally just being like, "Hey man, this was really fucking great." Like some of our friends like even made group chat threads where they were telling us about like the impact that Negative 32 had on them or whatever. So it's been a really weird and interesting couple days, and like being back in Sholo just kind of makes me feel like I'm like right in the eye of the storm a little bit, like in a weird way. But it is very cool. It's cool to like end the season on this note, because I feel like Well, actually, you know what? I'm getting ahead of myself. You had a couple notes. I want to run through some of your notes first.
Yeah, man. So the thing that I like most about being here is that it gets to be your podcast, your episode, because I am full of Freude, you know?
Yeah.
So talking about art and the death of art appreciation, I kind of wanted to pick your brain. What do you think makes something art?
I think that anything that feels like it's authentic feels like artsy. There's a Dimitri Martin book that's called "If It's Not Funny, It's Art," and that's kind of on the. I actually, dude, Dimitri Martin has got me, and that little twink motherfucker has got me in such a chokehold. He always has. But I think that whenever I think of something like art, my first my buddy Josh Reedhead, he's the one who kind of pitched the first to me recontextualization. And I always thought of like whenever we were writing music and stuff, or like watching movies and stuff like that, I thought of it like writing music, watching movies, working on a song, whatever the fuck, working on a podcast or whatever. But when I started to play shows, and then when I was like focusing on trying to like play the show, I always thought of it as like an art performance. Like this is a performance of your art. And that's where I realized that I was more infatuated with performance. So anything that feels like a performance or a presentation, or like, and a presentation doesn't necessarily, like, it doesn't have to be like a visual representation. Like, I mean, book is a presentation.
Right.
You're reading somebody's thoughts that are like now put into like not mouth
different
noises.
format.
Yeah. So I guess like anything that feels like it's come from somebody's imagination or heart or whatever it is, that feels like art to me. And so I think that, but it also kind of makes the term artist kind of watery.
Yeah, that's exactly it. That was actually my next question is, what do you think makes someone an artist? Because I like your concept of art. I have my own that I'll share after this, but I was wondering, that in mind, what do you think makes someone an artist?
An artist. I always thought it was weird how whenever you listen to a band, like it says the artist page, because it's like artist page sounds like canvas for like an artist. Because like I play music, I'll do podcasts, I do my little short stories, I do my little jokes. But when I think of somebody who's an artist, like I've dated tattoo artists, I'm friends with a tattoo artist, like I'm friends with Russell King. That feels like an artist to me. So like I would never call myself an artist, and then I don't know that I would like gently recorrect somebody. Like if somebody else is like, I'm an artist, and like,
I'm an artist.
Okay, yeah, sure you are. Oh, hold
So
on.
funny.
Someone like
Redacted.
Oh no.
I might, yeah, you know.
No, I understand.
I'm gonna.
I think that hits the fucking nail on the head.
Right.
And that's the unfortunate context of a title like artist. Like, kind of running in a different direction from you. I'm probably objectively no good, or at least not great at many of the artistic endeavors that I do.
Yeah.
But I'm a multimedia artist. Like, I don't look at myself as a instrumentalist, a pencil drawer, a sculptor.
Yeah.
I consider all of those things just as a different representation of art. So conceptually, I think what I do is art, but I don't do any one thing enough to say, oh, I'm a musician, I'm a sculptor, you know?
Right. And like even still, like I've been doing music forever, and I still don't think of I don't think that I'm a musician, or I've done quote unquote, this is the season finale of season 2 of Visceral Musings. I've done 2 fucking seasons of this podcast. I don't feel like I'm a podcaster. I don't feel like any of those titles fit me. It feels weird, but at the end of the day though, I do think of the closest thing that I can equate myself to being an artist is I hear it and I can see it, and I've been able to take something that I've seen in my head or heard in my head and then put it in a way where other people can now experience it or view it or like indulge in it in some capacity. I don't know what that says about me. I don't know if that makes me an artist, but I think when it comes down to artist, I always blanket term it to just like people who can draw or paint or something like that.
No, you know, and I think that that's fine. I think that personally I've struggled with my own expectations of what artists are.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I think that's part of growing up is sort of challenging your expectations and what you assign a word to mean.
Right.
Because I think that art is so ubiquitous. There's so many different formats of art that to define any one person as an artist kind of becomes like a title, like a dick measuring contest. And let me tell you, there's some juicy dicks out there. I mean, I've seen some outstanding, artists, but also I've seen some outstanding artists. You know, I've talked to people whose art is communication. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I guess I never thought of it like that.
There is a certain level of art in anything, and that's kind of where terms like artist become more ephemeral, more loosey-goosey.
Yeah. I do have to say real quick before we move on to the next point, it is so much better to be sitting face to face. Like a quick setup too. We got in here, we got everything set up. We're chilling with soup, and you were gracious enough to get me my preferred flavors of White Claw.
Yeah, man, they're fine. I mean, I feel every time I think about you and White Claw, I remember some context. I didn't drink at all until I was like 25, and I'm older than that now. But I've never been drawn to drink, and I don't know how to do it socially. So I always think about this time where I was at a party, just like a yard party that Cody and Braden and Ben showed up to. Yeah. And I just was like, I don't have experience in just being a normal person. So I was handed White Claws, which are, for anybody who doesn't know, seltzer, like lightly flavored seltzer water vodka things. I was just fucking crushing them because I don't know any better, you know. It's like, yeah, this is like water. So 2 fucking drinks, and I've taken out however many ounces this is. What is this, like 12?
It's like 16 or something like that, 12, 16.
Yeah, and the bigger ones, I think 21.
It's 12.
Yeah.
Yeah, that one's about a claw and a half.
It's just like, I don't know. It's like, it's water.
That's good.
And I don't get sloppy by any means. I'm always sloppy, so I operate on that level. But I just felt, I remember just like sitting there and realizing that it was a kind of like a baracho thing to be doing, you know? Like I looked more like an alcoholic than I feel doing that.
You said you don't get sloppy, but the claws make you give sloppy.
Oh,
so.
God.
And I will drink to that eternally. So
there we go.
There we
Clink.
go.
Seltzer water break.
There we go.
There you go.
I think about... there's this one time that we were playing a show, and Ian Dupierre had us over at his house. We were setting up for the show, and I was trying to get all of our shit together. This is like a couple months ago, and I had all my stuff out, and I was getting shit together, and it was maybe like I just got done driving. We were out at his house. It was like maybe 3:30, and he was like, "Do you want a drink?" And I was like, "No, it's like 3:30," and he was like, "You're not even an alcoholic." And I don't know why, but Ian is so good at talking shit that like set something off in me.
I'll show you.
Yeah, fuck you. You know what? I want to have a drink. Bring me 2.
That's so funny. Yeah.
Nah, shouts out Ian. Ian's a good dude.
I have a terrible barometer for social situations and for substances like alcohol. I just don't use them, so I don't know how to use them appropriately. And a lot of my personal memories with them from my childhood are flavored very poorly. I mean, I have relatives that I saw frequently in my youth who are drinking from the time they get home. You know what I mean? So I look at that as that's drinking in excess.
Yeah.
So me fucking up, 40 ounces of shit in 5 minutes is perfectly normal, perfectly average.
I had to learn how to pace these because I will run through seltzer water like crazy. Like I love it. I was drinking with my friend Tejas, and we were drinking White Claws, and I was like, "You want a White Claw?" He's like, "Yeah." Do you have any liquor? And I was like, "No, I don't drink. I don't drink liquor." And I was like, "You don't like beer? You don't like seltzer?" And he was like, "I don't like pissing." And I was like, "Well, fuck. I guess I just like that is true of me. I do piss a lot.
Girls be pissing. Well,
true.
it's
Go piss, girl.
What your body needs to do,
right.
like for everybody. But I mean, if you're going to be introducing things because, your kidneys are going to be doing the processing, you kind of have to piss. It's just the nature of things.
Yeah.
Is what I tell them anyway.
It's very nice, too, because like this entire season of Visceral Musings, maybe I could run through a couple things with this particular season because I will point out, like I've had some fucking cool ones on this season. Like I had Josh Reedhead to start the season, which is like, I know you don't know him personally, but like I didn't know him personally either. Like I grew up with the guy. I was friends with his girlfriend for years and years. And then get him on the show. Then I got Russell King lined up, and like I got to sit and talk with Russell about Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. I talked about my favorite rapper with Josh's girlfriend Allison, who's also one of my best buds. Like, it's been cool, and then it was really dope to get to do like interview style podcasts the entire time, because you and I can at least sit and just like we can shoot the shit over a microphone, and that's cool. Other people, I don't talk to them to the same capacity. So like having other people on, I really have to like
turtle up a little bit.
I have to fluff it up a little bit. I have to give it a couple smacks before I'm ready to show it to them. And it's been the ones that I will point out, since we're wrapping things up with season 2. I did not enjoy the second Deadpool episode, and I do this thing where I get in front of other people's negative comments before they've even made them, and I'm like, I fucking hate this episode, which was true. I really did not enjoy it. I felt like I could have done better, but you have to also understand my work schedule, and like keeping up with an upload schedule is sometimes very fucking hard. Like trying to work my 40 hours a week and then do this podcast, and then like my hours are sporadic because of like the nature of the field that I'm in, and it's just like not always practical. And then I remember I finished that episode at like literally 1:30 in the morning, and it was just not ideal.
So because I love to probe you, I guess I have to ask, what do you think happens if you miss a week?
Well, what I've heard is, and I've never missed a week, but I have missed a day.
Okay.
But I've heard that when you have a following, or when you have like a listening base, they're conditioned to listen to like whenever you're uploading. And then it's kind of the same with like release day with music. When you're releasing music, you and Jesse Cannon and Baked Bits and all those dudes are like way better at explaining this kind of shit. But you set them up for a day. The most listens that you're going to get are usually on launch day. And that is true. Yesterday, like that episode with Braden Hill got more listens than the entire season in one go, which is kind of like, if that doesn't tell you that a lot of our friends didn't know we were talking, like they didn't. But that kind of thing, you see the spike in the first day of listens, and then so on and so forth. It just kind of dwindles and more people find it algorithmically or whatever. So you kind of hone in on that. Like people are conditioned to expect this on Wednesday.
The science of front-end development, man. I mean, like that's legitimately desired behavior of the system. That's why your podcast app are going to prioritize based on most recent.
Yeah.
And I mean, coming from a person who does a lot of listening to of things, I always peruse most recent to least recent, but I don't always catch them on release date because that can be untenable when you have overlapping dates. The main reason why I ask is I just hope that you know that I think you have some grace, you know what I mean? Like, obviously, there's like a sort of Pavlovian conditioning where people, like the beautiful Ben, for example, are going to miss you if you don't release on Wednesday. But if you publish, hey, dog, I needed to juice something up for you, like this one right here is for Ben, I'm sure that a week isn't going to make him say, honestly, I don't know what you'd have to do to make him say anything bad. He's such a beautiful person. But
yeah, he never has anything. He has no cross opinions.
It fucks me up so bad. He actually introduced me to idols.
Oh, really?
Oh, my God, yes. And I didn't know about them, which I felt like a fucking fool for. I think I had heard Never Fight a Man with a Perm.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
That's where my brother showed him to me.
Yeah, but I actually hadn't any familiarity with the band until Ben. He's such a fun little spirit, and I love him so much.
Ben is one of the best people that I know. He's one of my best buddies, if not my best friend. Like he's a fucking like I did say, I forgot to mention yesterday, but I did Charles Ellsworth, Dirtbag's Guide to Life on the Road, and that episode came out today, which would be now last Thursday. But Ben Young is the fifth member of Negative 32, so like he got tagged in the Farewell.
He's your Flavor Flav.
That's right. We were Public Enemy, and he was Flavor Flav, and it was cool. I think Ben also, big shouts to Ben. He was just as much in it as if not more sometimes than other people whenever we were doing Negative 32. So big ups to Ben. All right, what's your next note? What you got?
Yeah. So circling back to the concept of art, I kind of wanted to address a more specific question because I have my thoughts about the changing landscape of art and art appreciation from an internal and external perspective. But where do you feel your feelings
Where do I feel my feelings?
Where do you feel them? Is it an entirely
No.
intellectual exercise, or is there a somatic component?
No, I'm a very I'm a very visceral person. Like in any sense of the word, but I tend to feel in my stomach. Like that's where I start to feel, like in my gut is where I get excited. I get anxious too, and sometimes I can't distinguish the two. Like sometimes I'll be in a really good mood and something will strike me and I'll get excited, but I can't. I think somewhere I think I've crossed wires and I don't understand sometimes like how I'm feeling. I'm a very jittery person, so all of my emotion is usually directed outward in some capacity. But yeah, no, I don't feel in my. I usually feel first and then analyze later, and that's always been a downfall of mine. And I've noticed it more as an adult because like I react. And then I think when I was younger, I would just react. And then I'd be like, that's how I did it. And then now I do it. And I'm like, why did I do that?
Yeah. And to be honest, I think that's the correct way for a human to function. Like coming from the opposite side of that equation, through a series of traumas and a lot of my own doing, I am almost the opposite. Like sometimes it takes prompting for me to kind of get back to feelings, which is why art as an abstract concept, my personal conception of art is so important to me because a lot of the times I can listen to something from a feelings perspective. I can observe a piece from a feelings perspective far easier than I can react to my own fucking life happening all around me from an emotional perspective. It's brain first. Then I'm like, oh shit, I feel that in my cheeks. Do you feel anything in your cheeks?
I felt mostly between it if I get really excited.
Yeah.
I always have to go bang one out real quick. I'll slip a nuck. But I don't know. Yeah, I've always felt just like emotional response to stuff. Like that's like where it is first.
Right. And for me, kind of underlining that first question that I asked, that's sort of long been my personal bias about what the definition of art is something evocative, whether it's intellectually or emotionally evocative. It is representational of an experience and is evocative of either feeling or thought.
Yeah.
And that's kind of why it's sort of expansive. But I've also, I don't know, man, in my adult life, I've been trying really hard to challenge those sort of preconceived notions because I look at the range of people who are artists and how varied they can be, both on an opinions basis, a behavior basis, method basis, and I realize that it's probably, for the sake of art as it is, not healthy to hold those expectations of it. Does that make sense?
No, that makes a lot of sense. I think too, when I analyze things like that, I'm more like prompted to like. It's kind of hard. The best that I can think of it is like I went and watched. It's been good on both fronts. Like so, the first time I watched Alice in Wonderland, the Tim Burton movie, I remember thinking this is fucking dumb, and then I get home and I was like that movie was fucking stupid. And granted, I was 13 years old at the time. Then I go back and I watch it again, and I'm like I fucking love this. Like I don't know why I shitted on it so hard. With such a aggression for so long, and then I watched it again. I was like, it's not half bad. I rather enjoy it. But then there's other things like I remember being in the movie theater and being wrapped up in the whole like the excitement and like the theater's energy of Star Wars: The Last Jedi. And now, fuck that movie to all hell. I fucking hate The Last Jedi from Star. And I remember thinking about it on the drive home, and I was like, so Luke overexerted himself and he got too tired and died. I'm like, I don't get, how did he die? And then I started to like kind of reanalyze it. I'm like, so Laura Dern just flew a fucking ship through the other you could have done that the whole time? Just take the escape pods and fucking fly the ship. That was there. That was there the whole time. I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, it kind of, I think it's been a positive. It's been a positive and a negative to like sit psychoanalyze shit after I've like already emotionally responded to it.
I'm always, when I think about Star Wars, brought back to Freddie Prinze Jr.'s comments about who Star Wars is intended for, and he was kind of he was a bit aggressive about it, which is a shame.
He's kind of an insufferable prick about it, but like in a good way.
Right, but it's like it's hard because I've always sort of detested that idea, because as an adult who has grown up in the shadow of Star Wars, it's very near and dear to me. But it's not at all to say that there aren't huge fucking problems with elements of it if you think about it from an intellectual standpoint, you know?
Word, yeah. And then, like, I remember, it's going to sound crazy, but one of the other people that I think had the best takes on Star Wars was fucking Ben Shapiro, which I know it would be crazy to think that I would say something that Ben Shapiro, he had a good point. He did have a good point, which was like, you know, he was one of these guys who was like, fuck Disney, fuck Kathleen Kennedy, fuck John Boyega, fuck all these people. And like, then he went back and looked at it again, and he was like, if you are like me and you're a grown fucking man who sits and bullshits on the internet, and then you watch this movie like as a grown up, and then you're trying to recapture your childhood, you are doomed to constantly relive the same cycle of disappointment. So sometimes you just have to let things be perfect for what they were, and then move on. And, you know, be like, if this is, you know, personally, I just skip over the new Star Wars trilogy. I'm like, you know, if we're going to rewatch Star Wars, I'll watch everything that I enjoy. I don't need to go back and look at everything.
You're not tied to an obligation with art at all.
Right.
You know, you can always look away, and that's kind of the thing with the new Star Wars is you sort of kind of have to look away. Right. Now, that being said, you were the one that was telling me about The Acolyte, getting off to a rough start. I got around to watching it myself, and I liked it well enough, especially considering the most recent trilogy. It's an obvious improvement from the most recent trilogy. Obviously, the acting points, I think, were perfectly valid.
I was not into the porn acting in that show at all.
Yeah, no, I think that's a really fair critique, but it was also, I think, far better than the most recent trilogy. I wouldn't say
it's better than The Rise of Skywalker.
Right.
For damn sure. I mean, kind of shooing in Plagueis at the end, or like... Sure, whatever. I don't really give a shit about that. I didn't really... I will give it credit where it's due, where, you know, they kind of hyped it up that it was going to be better than Duel of the Fates lightsaber fighting-wise. It was not.
No,
and they shouldn't have said that. But also, the lightsaber fighting was fucking... Like, it was exciting.
Expectations are like the thief. It's like comparison is the thief of joy. I think expectations as well are one of those miserable fights that we end up with in ourselves. Because I actually really enjoyed the Book of Boba Fett, but mostly when it became Mandalorian.
Right, I was going to say that too. Yeah,
season 0.5.
Yeah, I really enjoyed whenever Mando showed up, because I was just kind of like, oh, I get it. He's a Native American. We're watching him on the Native American frontier, and he's going to hijack one of the white man's fucking trains. And I was like, whatever. I thought that, well, there is another thing about art and like maybe where... Okay, I'll say this to like kind of harp on like what the point of the episode is, as we've so picked it, is like, well, like world building kind of kills excitement sometimes, and like when there is so much shit that's packed into one thing, it's like you're gonna ruffle feathers no matter what. And for me, Boba Fett was my favorite Star Wars character. And part of what it was for me is he was kind of shrouded in mystery. Yeah. Like, I love when that little alien shit comes out and he hits her on the chin, and then he's like, I'm gonna go fuck up Luke Skywalker real quick. Hold my drink. And then he walks away. He was a fucking badass. I love that about him. But when they got to dive deeper into his story, he got the character redesigned. I'm sorry, like, all big ups to Tim, what's his name?
Favreau.
Yeah, Tim Morrison.
Oh, Tamura.
Yeah, he was cool. Tim's cool, whatever. I liked him as Jango Fett. I don't like him as Boba Fett. I don't think Boba Fett should be walking around with his helmet off. I get what you're doing. I get what the point was. It was to establish, like, I'm here, I'm one of you guys, and I'm also going to be as much a citizen as I am, you know, the crime syndicate guy, whatever the fuck his name was. I don't remember. I've seen the series twice. And so I liked it enough. I like watching Machete show up and ride a fucking Rancor. That's fucking badass. That's the kind of shit for Star Wars that I'm in for. But when I watch the fucking Power Rangers do the spinny moves before they shoot their little blasters, it's like, what is going on? Why are they riding mopeds in the desert? Like, I don't get.
That was pretty weird.
The mods. Shout out Jonathan Apodaca. He's the one that's going to point out that mods is like they call some kind of punk rockers that in the fucking UK or whatever. I don't know. It doesn't matter. Jonathan is the biggest Star Wars fan that I know, and he is of the variety of special folk that just enjoy everything that comes out, and I'm more critical of it.
Well, and I think that I think that one of the things that you said, or many of the things that you said, kind of underscore the point when it comes to art appreciation, that our notions, our ideas, and our expectations about things dramatically flavor the piece.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, I almost wish for whatever suspension it is inside of Jonathan that allows him to fucking shovel
Right.
it in, because that's beautiful, you know, in a way. Because I have a similar problem. I watch things and I'm like, I wouldn't have done that. But like Jason Pargin, the author of the John Dies at the End books, apparently he's got a thing on TikTok. But I got a TikTok of his the other day talking about exactly Boba Fett, or someone of the similar like, talking about how, unfortunately, as an artist, as an author, it's incumbent upon you to protect the viewer from themselves.
Right.
Like, they think they want to know. But the problem, I think, isn't exactly that we are wrong in that we want to know. It's that we have this idea about what that character is to us, and when it isn't that, it can sometimes be difficult. Now, I would argue that the creative decisions that they made for Boba Fett weren't becoming of the character that they had built.
Yeah.
Kind of in the background of the original trilogy. But I would also say that it's definitely our expectations of that character that make who he was in the book of Boba Fett, that and watching a 60-year-old man portray him.
Oh, him running. He is so stiff trying to run. And I'm like, dude, he is like 60 years old.
Well, and it's
he's
hard,
playing like...
What's the winning play for Jon Favreau in that situation? He plays Tamura Morrison. At least he satisfies the people who are like, it should be Tamura Morrison because of the clones. But at the same time, if he plays a new actor, like, he's going to piss off people saying, oh, well, Tamura Morrison's alive. He could have played him. You know, it's so frustrating.
They could have got a dude who was maybe a little bit more mobile. That
I agree.
And he could have kept the helmet on,
Yeah.
and they would have never known the difference.
I agree.
I also think that,
VOs,
I think that... one of the things that kind of, it wasn't like a gripe necessarily, because, like, you know, do whatever the fuck you want. I have always thought of Boba Fett as like the classic armor with the blue bodysuit underneath, and like he's got the braids, and then he's got the gun, and it's like, you know, his sawed-off blaster. But the thing is that was exciting to me about it is, like, there was speculation. They were like, the braids are the like the rat tail of the Jedi that he's killed, or like there's so much lore that was never confirmed, and it built to the mystery of the character. You're like, what is the? It kind of looks almost like a grain logo that's on it. And honestly, there's a bunch of Star Wars fans that know exactly what I'm talking about, and they could tell you the whole thing. I don't want to know. I was kind of just intrigued by that mystery of him. Like, why, when in like Return of the Jedi, Lando and Chewie are talking to Han, who is blinded. He just got he thawed from the carbonite. And I don't remember if it's Lando or if it's Chewie that tells him Boba Fett's here. And he's Han Solo, the fucking space pirate, the space pirate. He's like, Boba Fett, like, scared. And I'm like, why is Han Solo that afraid of Boba Fett?
Yeah.
Like, what is this dude capable of?
What's the circumference? I'm with you.
And so I think sometimes it's better to not demonstrate. It's like, you know what? Just take my word for it. You don't want to fuck with this dude.
Right.
And I kind of like that. But putting it to the like, I mean, and I'll still say I wouldn't say I thoroughly enjoyed the series, but I did watch it a couple times. I watched it when it came out, and I revisited it again. I don't fucking know. I did like it for what it was worth.
It was fun to see Cad Bane.
Yeah. And it was really fun to watch the continuation. It's crazy because the continuation of Mando's story in Boba Fett is almost better than season 3 of Mandalorian.
Yeah.
So I don't know. All right, what's your next point?
So I kind of wanted, because I think that you did a great job representing one of the intellectual biases that gets in the way of art appreciation. My next line of questioning, I'm going to mix this up a little bit, is how do you feel about short duration media?
Oh, I wish I was better at that. Like, for my own personal, because like I think
You have a horse in that fight.
I just do like when I watch stuff a lot of the time. I don't like watching. So my big thing right now is I've been kind of exposed a little bit in like the kind of
Except a water break.
There we go. The type of stuff that I watch or consume or whatever, but I fucking love Jon Stewart. But I don't like watching Jon Stewart where it's just like on YouTube where it's a little clip of the thing. I want to watch the whole episode. I want the full thing, fully erect in me. And I don't like the edging part of it, but I don't really watch short format stuff a whole lot. Like I don't really fuck with TikTok a whole lot. I don't really watch Reels. PD, I don't know if you've ever listened to PD USA. He's a TikTok guy who's also like really fucking good musician. He has a couple albums out. But anyway, that's beside the point. I really liked his TikToks because they were weird, like almost fever dreamy TikToks that have like a really short anecdote that kind of like a long walk to get there. And they're always really funny. They're a lot of fun to watch, but they're longer format. And then, I don't know, I think I just enjoy longer format shit. I don't really watch a whole lot of short stuff anymore.
Why do you think that is?
I don't know. I think it's because a lot of stuff is targeted to people. I was just kind of talking about this on the drive up here, that there's a lot of things that are targeted towards a short attention span, and people's attention spans are constantly
like
dwindling.
Cultivating it, you
right?
mean?
It's algorithmic and it's opportunistic marketing that just kind of chimes in. Not chimes in it. Like it really kind of sets the trap for your short attention span.
Right.
Like fleeting fashion trends, things that are like music. That people don't release full albums anymore. I'm an album guy. Whenever somebody puts out a project, I want to hear the fully realized project.
Right.
So, because sometimes, like I know you like the Foo Fighters. That last Foo Fighters album, they had a couple good singles on it. That's an album you listen to from start to finish.
Yes, 100%.
And you cry you listen to it with just a soggy wad of tissues in your hand, and you mourn the loss of Taylor Hawkins. This is the second friend that Dave Grohl's lost. That.
Actually, my daughter wanted to watch the music video for Long Road to Ruin today, and just all of the Foo Fighters music videos where they're just doing their silly antics are touching. But every time I see Taylor, in his many roles that he plays in music videos, like I almost tear up a little bit, you know?
I like seeing him as a teenage girl. Those are my favorites.
Yeah, like in Learn to Fly.
Yeah.
Well, it's Grohl that plays
Grohl's
him.
the teenage girl,
it's Everlong, I think, that he plays the love interest.
And just stuff like that. I feel like, again, really popular with the TikTok kids right now would be Deftones. Deftones albums are listened to front to back for me, like Ohms. Whenever I turn on Ohms, I want to listen to the whole fucking thing. Whether it's like, anyway.
You're going to get a lot of my not very hooked in responses to things visually, because I didn't even know the kids were listening to Deftones again.
Oh, they are listening to Deftones. It's Deftones and Ghost, and oddly enough, I've seen a lot of stuff with like Alice in Chains. Like, there's just like weird bands that have had like a TikTok renaissance, and Deftones is one of those bands. And like, but it's weird shit with Deftones, dude. It's like fucking Hole in the Earth and like Knife Party or Sex Tape especially. That's a big one. But and those are just bands that I've always thoroughly enjoyed them, and but I like the fully realized project. I'm not like a singles guy, and that's a lot of the time, or at least maybe it'll change. Maybe the landscape's shifting a little bit. But
and it's hard too, because albums are inarguably better, but like I don't know how much international music you consume, but like I'm really into Japanese rock and alternative music. And singles are the fucking culture out there. I mean, you don't get albums as often as you get maybe 5 or 6 1 to 2 song singles.
I saw a lot of it's Jesse Cannon or Bacon Bits. These are these guys that are telling you about like how to market your singles, how to do this thing. And I was talking about it with Charles a little bit too. The Chainsmokers approach is new single every 30 days, right? And I don't really fuck with that a whole lot.
Right.
And then a lot of the time those singles just get eventually compiled into a collection of like a short EP or a very short album or whatever. And they're like, well, here you go. This was a marketing tactic to release, 3/4 of the entire project and then just label it as done. I don't really like that a whole lot. I've never been, I do like Tosh Show. I've
Tosh, like Daniel Tosh?
Yeah, he has a podcast. I don't know if it's a listen to podcast. I always watch it. It's like a thing that we watch it every Thursday, and we watch Tosh show, but at most it's usually at the very most it's maybe creeps up on an hour. It's never an hour though. It's usually like 45 minutes. Sometimes they're like 40 minutes, and it's fucking hilarious. He's a really good conversationalist, and he's really fucking funny.
He's funny. Again, it kind of challenges, or one of the things that early on challenged my notions about what makes an artist, because goddamn, if I didn't perceive Daniel Tosh to be the kind of dude who fucking loves the smell of his own farts. Yeah. And that's always been very off-putting for me, not because I care about his flatulence, but because there's just something about a dude who looks at you expectant when he tells a joke that I find fucking lame.
Yeah.
But I will give that he is very funny and very quick. I've seen bits of his,
Yeah, Tosh show is pretty fun. It's like 45 minutes, and he's 50 years old now. So like his approach to doing stuff is more like, he said one time, like he was trying to get, like, he had the dude who did the Fire Festival on, and he was trying to pitch like, I'm doing Fire Festival too. Why don't you come perform? And he was like offering him, like basically baiting him on camera, like saying that he would pay him X amount of money. And he's all, I don't have fuck you money, but I do have no thank you money. And that was really fucking good.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
So
let's do one more, and then we'll do the quote unquote potty break, and then we'll come wrap it up.
Okay.
Sound good?
I actually have a couple other things, so I'm going to push you on that. But how do you feel that short duration media has impacted music as a whole, music consumption and as an industry? You did allude to singles being kind of the prevailing modern culture in the States. But how else do you feel it's impacted music consumption? I have thoughts about this with the rise of singles, and I think of songs or pieces of media that got massive attention in like TikTok and Vine culture. Like there was a period of time where Them Changes by Thundercat was a very like popular audio, but I fucking seriously doubt that it translated to more listens of Drunk, the album that's off of, which I fucking can't recommend high enough. It's very funny.
I actually just saw the I don't listen to this band, so take it for what it's worth. But actually, I'll give you another example first. There was Olivia Rodrigo, who, and I won't lie, I was very shitty about her when she first started getting big. But it was when they had that fucking Driver's License song. Like, it was everywhere, fucking everywhere. And I was just thinking about how, like, she had a moderately successful career doing other things before that. And then she puts out this one song. She is an international fucking superstar off of one song. And for me, in my little punk rock gatekeeper heart, I was always like, back in the day, when you didn't do things like this, you had to load up your buddies in a van, and you had to go plaster your fucking flyers up all over town, and there was this like real fucking heart and emotion that was involved in storytelling and art presentation.
All right, Grandpa.
Right, yeah.
Mm-hmm. No, I know what you mean.
And I was so into it because it's like fucking, you couldn't sell a single. You had to sell the album. And so that kind of brings me to my next point, which was, I don't really listen to the band Bowling for Soup. Bowling for Soup sounds like, one of my friends was playing Bowling for Soup, and I was like, how when people say, this sounds like Blink-182, it's such a broad statement of this sounds like Blink-182, this sounds like Blink-182 is all of Bowling for Soup's discography.
That's super funny. For me, this sounds like Phineas and Ferb, which is for very good reason.
Accurately so, yeah. Bowling for Soup sounds like Blink-182. That's the best way I could put it.
That's very fair.
Yeah, you hear something and just because it's a pop rock, fucking pop punk song, whatever. I don't know. But anyway, I watched a video of Jared, the guy from the band, was up on stage, and he was like, so we're going to play this album. It's 20 years old. We're going to play the full thing top to bottom. But the best songs are going to be played first. So we're going to play 3 songs. Then we're going to get to song number 4, and you're going to be like, what the fuck is this guy doing? And then there's 18 songs on the album. He's like, let me explain. When we put the album out, which now it is 2024, and they put out the album in 2004. It was written in 2003, so the early marketing was somewhere in between there. This was when iTunes was new.
Yeah.
So iTunes needed 30 seconds of the best songs up front so that they could try to sell the record more because it was a new platform. And so that's why those top 3 songs were the first singles off the album, and therefore those are the 30-second clips that everyone was hearing. That was to try and get people to buy the album. So the songs that were massively popular are the first 3, and then there's 18 songs on the album. Because you had to sell the album, you didn't sell the single.
Right. Marketing has sculpted media consumption, song consumption in that way. Yeah, with my joke about you being old, I distinctly remember going to early Warped Tours. For me, early Warped Tours, mid-2000s Warped Tours. And because I'm a psychopath, I'd get there to now called Action Pavilion, back then Cricket Pavilion, at 5 in the fucking morning. And 5 in the morning, dude. And it's Warped Tour. It's going to be there all day.
Yeah.
But I get there at 5.
And it doesn't get there till 10.
No, I know. I get there at 5 in the morning predominantly because a lot of young acts, people who aren't, some of them are performing, but many of them are just following the tour, would be walking around with a Discman and some headphones, and they'd say, hey, $5, but give me a listen. I'll throw on some songs for you. You can listen as long as you want. And it was somewhat strategic in a way because, it's nice to make friends, I guess you could say, people that you're going to be able to chill with throughout the day. It's a hot fucking day. But it was
really
also,
puts a name to the face too.
Right.
Or face to the name.
Right. It was really fun to see people that way. And it was I remember it was just musicians, the Hare Krishnas and Blogspot bloggers that you'd find that early who were trying to get you to consume their stuff.
They were hungry.
They were hungry.
Yeah, they were hungry. Those boys wanted it. They wanted it more than the old heads.
Yeah.
Which is true. That's actually how I met one of my favorite bands, Forever Came Calling. I watched a Warped Tour documentary. I watched the No Room for Rock Stars Warped Tour documentary. I was about 16 years old, and then we were going to Warped Tour that weekend, so we were watching it till we're pre-game, and I'm edging all weekend. I got a hook in my finger that week. A crazy week for me. It was really big. But we watched the No Room for Rock Stars documentary. This is my recovery time after I got a fucking rusty hook through my finger, and I was laying on the couch, elevating my hand, watching this thing, and there was this guy walking around with not to show my age here, but the Discman had long since it was they were fossilized under sediment.
We had a Zune.
Right. We had this thing called an iPod. iPod Touch. But so this guy walks up to me, and he anyway, I was watching the thing, and I was like, if somebody does this, if somebody comes up to me, and this is before I'd ever played a show, I'd really not done jack shit with anything. I was like, if somebody comes up to me with their fucking Discman or their iPod or their Zune or what have you, I'm going to listen to it. Even if I don't buy the CD, I'll at least listen to it because I watch these guys get rejected. Point blank. They're like, you want to hear my song? They put on the song and they're like, no disrespect. This shit fucking sucks. Kill yourself. And hand their fucking headphones back.
No, I would watch that all the time. And the thing that kind of harks back to art and art appreciation is sometimes I'd fundamentally disagree. Obviously sometimes people, they're unpolished or their message doesn't resonate with me. But there were times I distinctly remember where I would see these people get rejected viciously, disrespectfully, and then listen to their music and think, fuck, this is actually excellent.
Right.
How many albums do you have?
Yeah. And so, I was watching that documentary. There was a little band called Forever Came Calling, and they were one of those hungry. They were not on the tour. They were following it in a little van. And so their big thing was at the very end of it, for all the old heads listening, Kevin Lyman sat down with Joe Candelaria, which I've gotten to meet this dude where I've talked to him a couple times. My band, Negative 32, we opened for him at one point in time. And so anyway, their big payoff was that they got to open a show at Warped Tour. And that was congratulations, you followed us for fucking, it used to be, 50 shows in 48 days or 52 shows in 50 days.
Nuts.
Something wild. And so anyway, I'm at Warped Tour walking around. This dude named Bryce walks up to me with a beard, and he was like, hey, you want to hear my band song? And I was like, yeah. I was like, it's the craziest thing. I'll tell you afterwards. So I put on the headphones, listening to it, and I'm like, this is good. I was like, I'll I'll buy a CD. I was like, I got $10. And he was like, that's so cool. And I was like, you know what's crazy is I just watched the documentary with this band who was following the Warped Tour called Forever Came Calling. And he was like, that's my band. And I was like, you're fucking kidding me. And he's like, no, I'm dead serious. And I was like, we got to go to the tent. So like, take the headphones. I didn't recognize him because they got a different drummer. So we walk over to the tent. I have a picture of that exact encounter. I was wearing a Bad Religion t-shirt. I was with my high school girlfriend, had her take a picture of me with Forever Came Calling holding their record called Contender, signed, still have it. Bryce was like, that was like one of the coolest experiences I ever had. And it was directly because of that.
What year was that?
This was 2014? Maybe 13? I don't remember. It was I'm going to say 2014 because Contender was already out maybe for 2 years. That album has, not to get all, Visceral Musings on you, but I'll end this segment on this, and then we'll take a break and come back. But I remember very distinctly my sophomore year of high school was spent just like listening to Contender from Forever Came Calling. It was something that when it found me at the right fucking time, because I was not into Story so far. These bands weren't on my radar, so my first introduction to that style of pop punk was Forever Came Calling. And I was listening to it, and this dude is just like fucking obsessed with Charles Bukowski. And so the lyrics are more like thought out. They're more like they read like a story almost sometimes. And the dude is just a phenomenal fucking lyricist. And I just remember whenever I drive here, in this time of year, it would be like monsoon season, I have this crazy memory of me driving my mom's old Infiniti with the album Contender playing, the song For the Wolves, and like just smelling the rain on the road, heading over to my girlfriend's house. And like I every time I'm driving here around this time of year, I'm like, I just get flooded with that, where I'm like, suddenly I'm 16 driving over to
Redacted.
house, and it's just kind of like that. And,
Right.
Yeah. So artwork does have a profound impact on me. Maybe not all the time, but
I'm happy to talk about the dynamic of change after I hold your wand while you pee.
all righty. Well, so concludes the first half of this episode of Visceral Musings. When we come back, we're going to keep talking about the same old shit. Don't go away. Hello and welcome to another potty break. Here at Visceral Musings, at the midway point of every single episode, we like to beg every single listener who so chooses to indulge in my little program to follow us on Instagram at Visceral Musings Pod. Be sure to subscribe to us over on YouTube if you like getting your shit for free, which why wouldn't you? And also, leave us a 5-star review if you're listening over at Spotify, and maybe even interact with that little Q&A thing that I like to put up every single week. But more so than all of that, I want to thank every single person who listens to these. From the bottom of my heart, I can't believe that there are so many people that listen to this. And I also want to point out that I fucked up. Jeopardy is the first song on Run the Jewels 2, not Blockbuster Night. And also, starting August 15th, I will have stickers available, the very first ever piece of high quality merch available for this podcast. And again, thank you guys so much for listening. Let's get right back to the season finale of Visceral Musings. Next time we come back to this, because you were just saying that you wish that off camera, off the record, you're saying that you wanted to have an ad to read. I'll write an ad for you. Just quick shout out to Sholo Burger King and their remodel. I guarantee you, haven't stepped foot in there. It's just as bad as it used to be. Welcome back to the second half of Visceral Musings. There's not really a set. There's not a topic that's going to be like a movie or an album. We're more conceptually talking about this. It's more abstract this way.
Right.
But anyway, back to because you got notes. I don't have notes. I've had a busy week. I haven't done shit. So this is our podcast, our episode.
Right. That's right. So, at what point do you think your relationship with music changed?
I think it changed. There's a point where I'm listening to these albums that are like it's changing my landscape for me. Like there's so many that I can draw from, like Aesop Rock, The Impossible Kid. There's Blink-182's Untitled album. There's Run the Jewels 2, Prof. there's so many of these like instrumental albums to me, but it ended up becoming like, I was listening to it and like, this is the blueprint. This is where I'm like, doing a deep dive into like watching them play live and thinking like, I got to catch these bands. And then it was more like looking back on like when I'm listening to these things, and like it's cool because music is one of those things that like, especially when it's in a physical format, it's not going away. So I can revisit things, and then I revisit them and I started to take new meaning from what they were doing. And then when I started to pick apart what actually made these things good, then it started to shift how I was writing stuff, and it started to inform like my own creative process. And initially it wasn't like that. I was just a happy passenger. Like I got to sit and listen to something that I just really fucking enjoyed, and it was cool. And then I was taking something that I already really enjoyed, and I was taking inspiration from it, and it was informing these things. And it, like my whole relationship changed when like I was able to look at things, and like it wasn't like I was ever envious, because they say get inspired, not envious. But I was never envious, but I was always just celebratory. And when I was less celebratory and more like not critical, but more analytical, it just changed everything. Like I was able to write better guitar parts because I was just taking pieces and like Frankensteining shit together. And eventually it started to become less of like a derivative substance and more like its own thing.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's one of the things that I love about like Yvette Young's playing, for example. It's so informed by American football, but it isn't in such an important way. Like I don't know how much of her stuff you've listened to.
I've listened to none of it.
Oh my gosh, she's good. She's so good. She has I think that her band is called Covet, and that's like it's all stuff that she's written, but there's another person playing the drums and often the inclusion of bass. But she's a guitarist in the same vein as American football, with that sort of modern,
Noodly Midwestern stuff.
right? The Midwestern stuff, open tunings, that sort of thing. But she's also outstandingly creative and kind of approaches it from a different way that's so inspired by, but not derivative of.
Right.
Yeah, I actually think that she's got a single coming out, or potentially more than that, with American football.
It's so what it is the American football LP is getting re-released, but it's all covers. And so like I was actually just going to say Never Meant, which is like that's the American football song. Iron and Wine covered it, and it's on that release. And they're doing a remastered version of the album, but it's also in tandem with like, which is kind of cool because I think Iron and Wine gets to like sneak in sometimes, like Postal Service, Streetlight Manifesto, they got to do the Postal Service. But yeah, it's going to be like that because Manchester Orchestra's on it too, and I'm fucking so excited for that. I was going to say though, Sum 41, which is about to go on their big farewell tour, like it's a send off for Sum 41. Sum 41, which I think actually might already be done. I don't fucking know. I don't follow them, but Sum 41 started as a NoFX cover band.
That checks out.
Yep. Their original sound was just, fucking literally, it wasn't like they were imitating NoFX. They were literally playing NoFX songs. And then now they've had a career that kind of like, maybe not as far as like impact has gone, but commercially far more successful than like
which is weird. The idea of a modern punk group more successful than NoFX is weird to my old ass, because I look at modern punk alternative music and I think, well, obviously NoFX, like obviously there are other bands that have had major impact, like I don't know, all the many things that Tim Armstrong has touched or
Rancid,
whatever.
Op Ivy, yeah.
But at the same time, I never really considered that their scope of impact is so relatively small.
Yeah, NoFX was just like that was because we were talking about like our old friend group that I was running around with back in the day. Like NoFX was a huge one. They were around this time, but they had shock value, and they also had like musicianship, because like 2009 was like where I really was around you guys, and that's when the album Coaster came out. And like the more I revisit Coaster from NoFX, the more I'm kind of like blown away by how good it actually is, because it's really easily overlooked, because it's like they're so deep in their career, and it's like, but if you listen to like there's a song about creeping out Sarah from fucking Tegan and Sarah. That song is so, not only is it really clever, it's a good fucking song. It's catchy, and it'll have you like kind of bob in your head when you're not listening to the lyrics, and then once you analyze it a little bit more, you're like, The fuck did you just say?
Right.
Yeah, and it was same with there's a song on that album, First Call. Such a funny fucking song. He says something. I'll let you move on, but there was a line that he had in it that always makes me giggle, where he's like, fuck me. A fat drunk Jew starts singing this song.
Yep.
I take a closer look, and the fat guy is me, so I buy him a shot, and he buys me back 3.
So don't ever worry about my eyes. I just don't want to lose place with where I'm at. I will
No,
never.
you're good. I do it
will
too.
never rush you.
No,
That's
I'm looking all
I'll
around.
almost
too.
do the opposite. I will force you here longer than you intend to be.
Ask me to slow down.
I will definitely say a little bit slower, please.
Let's drag this out.
Deeper, but slower. What do you think? What do you think makes a good album? Or what makes an album good to you?
To me, that's a better way of putting it.
Right.
Because if I don't know what makes an album good, because I think there's some, I'm not going to run down this rabbit hole, but there are some things that I think are supposed to be good. Like you listen to stuff and it's like, you're supposed to enjoy this. And I'm like, right. But I don't. There's like very critically successful albums that I just like them, and not to throw shade, but I liked Lithonia. I did not rock with that new Childish Gambino album. Like it just didn't scratch that itch that I had in my brain, but it's critically successful. Like it's critically acclaimed. And I'm like, really? Is it? I don't know. But anyway, same with the Integrated Tech Solutions, actually from Aesop Rock. Critically acclaimed, one of his highest regarded albums. My least favorite of his last 5 releases. And that's fine. Totally fair. But I think one of the things that draws me into a good album is it doesn't have to be a conceptualized thing like a good opener. Sometimes when an album really just kind of puts it all out there, when an album is like a shower and a grower, that's kind of cool. Sometimes it's really dope to jump into an album and they have just a solid opening track. Best examples of this that I can provide off the top of my head, Deftones and AFI. They always have AFI has kind of fallen off in the recent years, but they usually have just a really, really gripping opening song. And so whether it's, they open up with The Sinking Night on Burials. Deftones opens up with Hexagram on the Deftones album. That's a solid fucking album. It's beautifully organized. I like when there is, there's peaks and valleys, and it doesn't have to be quality wise, but it can be in what it is. Cause I like some dumb shit, dude. I love Run the Jewels 2 is one of my favorite albums ever written. I have it tattooed on my leg. And when I listen to that album, that's the same album that has He Want This Clit in His Mouth All Day. Mm-hmm. It has some dumb shit in it, but to me, what I really enjoy about that album is it's raw. First off, it's very raw. It's these two fucking heavy hitters that are doing something that's just it is as produced as it is bare bones. And I love that about the album. It's so vulnerable in some parts of it, but it's also just fucking great to me. And I think what it is it's storytelling, solid opener, fucking Blockbuster Night Part 1, or is it Blockbuster Night Part 2? Doesn't matter. Blockbuster Night. When you jump into that, same with Run the Jewels 4, when they jump in with Yankee and the Brave, it just sets you up for where you're going, and I love a good ending. There's very few people that end an album quite like Run the Jewels. But some of my favorite albums of all time, dude, Clarity from Jimmy Eat World. There is the Untitled album from Blink-182. Hate to say it, but dude, opens with Feeling This, ends with Lost Without You. Just a fucking great album.
It's a journey.
And it's so different from the rest of their shit. Because I love Dude Ranch as much, and the album as much as I didn't know that Dude Ranch was a sperm joke until I was 21.
That's so funny.
Never dawned on me. I was just thinking Dude Ranch, a Dude Ranch, not Dude Ranch.
Right. Well, everything is entendre, double entendre with those guys.
Yeah, but I think I don't know how to answer that, man. Because sometimes things hit me at the right time.
I think that the inability to answer that question is the correct answer to that question. So that's good.
Yeah, I don't know.
What was the last album that made you cry?
That made me cry? Oh, I didn't have the same response, and this is going to be controversial. Didn't have the same response to One More Time that a lot of other Blink-182 fans did. I liked it, most of it. and I thought that it was good, but I think, and it's again, sometimes it's contextualizing it. Like the album from the Foo Fighters, the most recent one that I'm blanking on the name of it, but the most recent Foo Fighters album, I remember putting it on, and I was like, I remember getting the depth of it and like the impact of it and like what it is, but the song "Sleep" at the end of the album, which is very quiet and it's very soft, and then it explodes, didn't really hit me until I saw my friend Elena had passed away a couple years ago. Her dad posted it on his story and then like wrote her name with it. And then it hit me, like the impact of it a little bit, like kind of, then it sunk in. And then I was able to like, then I got it. I've never cried listening to an album before, I don't think. I've cried at a live performance though.
Right. Well, that's a whole other experience. I was actually, I had this sort of not exactly cynical conversation with my kid about, just for people who don't know, in the area that we live, there is a rock and roll church. And to make sure,
So cool.
to make sure I'm explaining that adequately, this is a congregation that gathers at the local school auditorium with a full musical production and accompaniment. But it's like,
I don't mean to laugh.
no,
It's
feel
kind of-
free to
it's
laugh.
kind of funny.
That's sort of the conversation I had with my daughters. She was saying that a peer of hers participates in this church, and we were talking about the logic behind the inclusion of music. And I was talking to her because she's an artistic spirit in the same ways that I am. And I was like, you know how music makes you feel stuff? Well, some people realized that that's like a cheat code to slip Jesus in there.
Right.
Like, all of these emotions you're feeling,
Let me put Jesus in your mouth.
that's Jesus.
Yeah.
The way you feel hearing this progression, that's Jesus.
Hey, we like to have fun here. But that's Jesus. There's a song from Ghost called "The Darkness at the Heart of My Love," or "There's a Darkness at the Heart of My Love," and it's exactly about that. The sing-songy tactics that a lot of churches will use through like hymns and like put your hands up, bow your head, and fucking sing the words of Jesus Christ that are not the words of Jesus Christ. It's something that somebody else came up with to pander to your love of music, and so you're singing and you're not even realizing what you're singing about,
Right.
and you're celebrating something that you don't even realize you're celebrating.
Music has always been so important to me. Art is in general, and I have a very clear memory of being about her age. One time when my dad took me to a Baptist church up the road from our place, and one of the hymns was about being washed in the blood of the Lamb, and I thought, fuck, man, this is almost metal,
Yeah.
but in a repulsive kind of way.
Do you like metal?
I like music, man. There is a technical, impressive component to a lot of metal, and there is lots of metal that I do fuck with. My dad was really into hair metal, so I have this ingrained soft spot for like Maiden and
Yeah,
old
Iron
school
Maiden?
hard rock. Yeah,
That's Jesus.
I know. That's what I'm telling you, man. It's all Jesus.
I've been putting Jesus in you for years. You didn't even know.
And I was telling her, I was like, that's the reason. When it comes to the rock and roll church, and this is not to be disrespectful to...
Redacted.
Right, he's a beautiful person, whatever. God, excellent musculature and a perfect ass.
I saw him perform at your sister's memorial.
Oof, yeah, that was... And that's the problem, right?
She wouldn't have liked that.
No, and that's the fucking... Oh, dude, I have so many feelings about that. But I was telling her that's the proxy. Is like there is a certain evocative quality to art, and people
and
realize...
muscles and good asses.
That too. People
Good
realize
bone
that they can manipulate it to shape the world, and that's the whole history of marketing. But that's also the history, in a lot of ways, of modern religion.
Yeah, I want to point out too, one of my other favorite albums that I kind of skated over a little bit, "Disintegration" by The Cure. And again, this was intended to be always from the get-go Robert Smith's magnum opus, and he wanted to create his masterpiece before he was 30. And then, I don't know how he feels about it, but like for me, that does it. Pinkerton from Weezer was an album that was widely panned by a lot of people, and it didn't become popular until much later. Perfect album. start to finish, Pinkerton from Weezer. I do want to point out, for anybody who's well versed in the lore of the Oz and Cody episodes, I finally got to try Beach Plum LaCroix, and I want to note it is excellent.
Yeah, thank
Crushed
you.
a can of it.
I'm glad you fucking liked it, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm a Blue Album guy myself when it comes to Weezer. It's
But a perfect album.
Yeah, it's not to say that Pinkerton isn't great, but
Yeah.
I'd beat it to the Blue Album every day of the week. Fucking Surf Wax America, that's me to my dick.
Yeah.
You take your car to work, I take my hog.
Yeah. That's good. I like that. I was gonna think of it. Well, there's so many sex jokes in Pinkerton. It's not even worth it. Pink triangle, bored of sex. There's a lot of they're already there for you.
That's so funny. How do you think, or how do you feel that cynicism has flavored your relationship to other genres? So that's like things that when you, at a point in your life, whether that's now or before, used to think, I like everything except for, pop music, country music, insert whatever.
Yeah, it was like mending that relationship, I guess, because I think there was some things that I had listened to before, or that held different meaning to me. Like, I don't know, whenever I listen to country music, a lot of the time I associated it with growing up, and my mom, my dad, my mom's ex-boyfriend, who just traumatic stories of these people that they were. Not so much like my mom, obviously, but like my mom's ex-boyfriend and my dad were not always the best people in my life. And then to kind of counter that, they really enjoyed country music. So I think it forced a weird connection in my head where I'm like, so you're a piece of shit, and then you sit and listen to fucking Trace Adkins or whatever the fuck it is, and I'm like, this is what you enjoy. And then I was like, assholes like this shit. Fuck you. But...
Well, and to be fair, your reality reflected that. No doubt. Up here... assholes listen to country music.
Yeah.
There just happened to be a lot of fucking assholes.
Yeah, and that's what they were all listening to, and it pissed me off because that was, to me, it was theirs, and then I had mine. And so mine was a lot more fuck your shit, and theirs was more old sing-songy, I'm a good dude. I remember my mom's ex-boyfriend got a fucking tattoo that said only God can judge me, and was like, enjoy hell, motherfucker, because he will. And come Judgment Day, I hope your ass has a VIP section in hell where you get ass rammed by every serial killer ever
all
known
the
to man.
pineapples for that guy.
Yeah. Oh yeah, little Nicky. Fucking Hitler gets the pineapple shoved up his ass. Yeah, they'll have something. Hopefully not. I hope he gets something special, but I don't know. But anyway, I think I did have a weird forced connection with that kind of stuff. But when I got older, Colton got really into country music, and he was he was so immersed in it, and he was putting it on, and he's like, it's actually pretty good though. At first it was ironic, then it was funny, and then it was hold up, it's actually really good.
Do you think that he did that, though, because of how good he looked in the pants?
I think it was that and the pearl shirts, and then eventually the pearl necklaces.
Right.
The pearl button-down shirts that Colton was wearing that he would... I will say, cowboy attire is just infinitely horny for men. Before we had, now the thing is, the 5-inch inseam on the shorts. It used to be really tight black denim and chrome type shit.
My dad used to talk to me about how back in the 70s, it wasn't somehow super obvious that... what's his name from Judas Priest?
Oh, Rob Halford.
Yeah, it wasn't obvious that Halford was into men.
Oh.
And looking back at that, that's fucking hilarious.
Yeah.
But I think that that's going to happen again in a couple generations with the country vibe, whether it's reclaimed by the queer leaning, or if it's just been that way and for some reason.
Right.
I mean, it's always been a part of butch lesbian culture. Shout out to butch lesbians.
Yes, that's a huge part of my demographic, honestly. I think one of the things. Okay, so when I started to appreciate music as a storytelling platform, and jokes aside, I do admire the fuck out of people that are able to tell stories with their music, because I do not. That's not my forte, and it's not to say I'm not shitting on myself. I'm like, I can't do this. I just don't. It's not something that I do. I don't sit down. I'm like, well, when I was 14, I don't do that shit. Charles Ellsworth does it, and he can point out infinite numbers of influences that he's taken from other. Jason Isbell, fucking Johnny Cash, Marty Robbins. Colton was big on Johnny Cash and Marty Robbins. And those were like mainstays in our bedroom when we were growing up. Like mostly like high school, but like we were listening to Marty Robbins. And when I got older, Braden and I ended up becoming like big fans of Brooks and Dunn. And so Neon Moon is like mine and Braden's song. And it has been for a long time. Like, I don't know. Like we just got real big into it. And it does start, sometimes it's ironic, then it's funny. Then it's like, but have you heard this part? And then we like go back and listen to it. A big one for me, cause I ended up kind of, thinking these guys aren't going to take that shit from me. If I'm going to enjoy something, I'm going to enjoy it without having to fucking think of so-and-so or fuckface from my past. But one of them was, I was walking around Kmart in Sholo, and I remember Water by Brad Paisley came on. And it's kind of a dumb song. Like it's about like seeing chicks in bikinis and being a kid and going to a fucking watering hole or whatever. And so there's a part in it where just like unannounced, some really crazy technical guitar solo. And I was like, this is Brad Paisley? And then if you get a chance, dude, put on Water by Brad Paisley and then just like listen to, first off, whether you enjoy the song or not, motherfucker can sing. First off, motherfucker can perform. Second off, third, motherfucker can shred. And I didn't know that he could shred to that degree. And then it just kind of opened up a can of worms where like it was connection of like musicianship, storytelling, and also just like one of the other things I really admire about country music, whether it's Dolly Parton or Johnny Cash or, like another really good one is just like Marty Robbins. They don't need a band. They can sit guitar in hand and play you a fucking song and move you to tears. And I love that.
Like, as much as I do personally have a history with shitting on country music, I saw it described when it's at its best, and there's a lot of it in these days that is not at its best, as 4 chords and the truth.
Right. There you go.
And I think that
Testify.
that's... Right. I think that that's fair. You know what I mean? Like, I am not a country music fan, especially not that pseudo-patriotic fucking garbage.
Toby Keith.
I'm not throwing out names because I don't bother to learn them.
Rest in peace, Toby Keith.
But you know what I mean? Like, I was making jokes about it the other day when I was thinking about country music, about how I need to release a country music album called like Lullabies for My Truck. Something silly, because like there is a certain massive percentage of popular country music that's fucking bullshit. But there is also a deep enough well of history derived from a cousin of blues that is simple and stripped down and worth something.
Right. I wish that I was able to do that kind of bare bones approach to music. Like just I could just bear back a fucking acoustic guitar and people were like intrigued by it. That would be something. And like, I don't know, country music at its finest is sometimes just that. We have, like Charles and I talked about Unearthed by Johnny Cash, which a lot of it is just demos, and it's mostly just a dude with a deep voice telling stories. And if you saddle up for that ride, dude, it's like, it's so insane. It's like he had this innate ability to just tell a really short story in effective wording. That's another thing with country music is effective wording. Not so much like pop country. Like Bo Burnham has a pop country song that's really fucking funny, where he talks about like fucking whatever, like a scarecrow out. It's really funny. But before pop country became like so formulaic and predictable, it was in essence just raw storytelling, and it could be heart-wrenching. It could be really funny too.
Pop country at its best was the Chicks in a lot of ways.
We were just talking about this too. Braden and I were at home. We were talking about how like we got to start covering the Chicks, dude.
Oh, they're so fucking good. But also Me First
yeah.
kind of beat you on that. They have a really good cover of Goodbye
That's right.
Earl.
Oh man, I forgot about that. We were talking about. I will say before we move on, one of my hottest takes is that there's a Stevie Nicks Fleetwood Mac cover by the Chicks of Landslide. I prefer that version to the original.
That's fair.
Yeah. A lot of people would beg to differ. I've gotten
it's really
some
good.
heated
the Chicks
debates.
do a good job. And
They fucking killed it.
I feel like, what's his name? Corgan does a good job with his cover of it.
Yeah.
There's lots of great... That's the thing about a timeless piece of media, is that there are some covers that are weak, but then there are others that add a new layer to this song. You know what I mean? Like they're not just different, but they add something else that's worth paying attention to. My favorite conversation that I have had a couple times, especially when I was a teenager with people, was Hurt by Johnny Cash, which was at the time new. Hurt by Johnny Cash, as I know you know, is a cover song from Nine Inch Nails. Yeah. And Hurt by Nine Inch Nails is deeply weird, but also beautiful. Like it's one of those songs I remember because back in the Discman days, you didn't always know what was coming up, when the song was going to end, and that song ends on a really loud, sort of discordant note. It kind of builds up that sort of powerful backing track. And I was like, fuck, this song has a message to it. A message of a man reflecting on his particular struggle. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Johnny Cash's cover of Hurt contains that same message in a way.
It presents it in a different way.
It because of the execution is a man looking back on life, not just what life has been there, but like that whole fucking thing. There's no chance that you think that man's living another couple years, and he doesn't.
Right.
You know?
Yeah, I thought about that too, like just listening to it recently, because my older brother is a huge Nine Inch Nails fan, and like we were listening to, he prompted me to listen to a lot of the Nine Inch Nails, like back catalog, and like when I was listening to Johnny Cash, like getting ready to talk to Charles about Unearth, which like at the end of that one has Hurt on it, just thinking like, how the fuck did you hear that song and this is what you heard, and you managed to tell the story in a way where it sounds autobiographical to you. I think owned it so
in
well.
a way you can kind of attribute Rick Rubin to that.
Yeah, for sure.
Like I don't mean to turn this into a dick writing session for Beardy Baldy Rick Rubin, but like that man is talented.
Oh yeah.
Have you listened to Marcus King? He's country leaning singer songwriter that Rick Rubin just produced for recently. So he has an album out. I think it's called Mood Swings. It is country leaning, but it's also somewhat bluesy singer songwriter. It's very worth the listen because I think Rick Rubin has a talent for identifying something intrinsically valuable about a piece of music. That's not to say that everything he's done has been fucking great.
Yeah.
But I think that that's what his ear is particularly great at, because as I understand it, he heard that song just kind of thinking over things to suggest to Cash. And he was like, hold on, I think that this message and you mix together well.
Yeah. And then he makes his magnum opus in a way.
But that's the one that fucking people these days know for sure.
Yeah.
And it's also beautiful. He does a painful and beautiful rendition of that song.
Yeah, and he was just working to stay alive, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is crazy.
Ain't that something?
Yeah, it's so fucking sad. I get a weird feeling when I listen to Johnny Cash now.
I have a question about your answer, and then I wanted to circle back as well. Do you think that you mentioned that your relationship with these things kind of started with an ironic response, and then it kind of led to, well, maybe.
Yeah.
You know, like the way all kinks develop.
Yeah, I was going to say most sex things start this way too.
Yeah. Do you think that an ironic response is like an emotional response in code sometimes? Like because we live in a society so draped in shame and self-shame specifically. Do you think that there's just something about it, like the Nickelback effect, for example, they call it, you know?
I would maybe attribute it more to the Creed effect.
Creed, yes.
Creed was a big one where people are like, but honestly, at the end of the day, Hired is a banger. And then next thing you know, dude, the motherfucking, it's charting again.
I know, it's fucked up. I actually had Human Clay, which is the album with that song, I believe.
You know who else did? Everyone's Dad.
That's the thing.
That's where I heard it.
That was my problem. As a kid, music was so important to me, and I had everything that I could get my hands on. And so I appreciated it at the time, but I also recognized that people had interpersonal reasons to dislike Scott Stapp.
Should have been there on a Sunday morning. Yeah.
So I kind of have my suspicions about that. Like, I'm not saying that everything when it comes to like an ironic response is in fact an emotional response, but I think a lot of the times, a lot more than we give it credit for, that's definitely what's happening.
Yeah, it's a deeply rooted psychological thing that you're not aware of until you're able to analyze it much later on.
Unfortunately, like for a person like me who's I'm front-end intellectual, like my job, my livelihood involves
being a professional.
Well, not only being a professional, but thinking things through to a fucking devastating point.
Right.
So I am front loaded by analytical, and then I get to, if I'm lucky, experience the emotions. I think that I comb through a big, thick rod of irony sometimes before I get the point.
Yeah, you have to peel back a lot of the skin.
Right. It's uncircumcised for me.
Yeah, it wears a hood.
So I am
Digging through the cheese to find the meaning.
right. I was thinking of the albums that have made me cry, because I've actually been chewing on a bunch of albums lately, and one of them was one that I showed you, and it was more of a positive cry. I don't know if you've listened to it. I actually think I asked you, and you told me you hadn't, but Empathogen by Willow, in a very positive way. She has a couple songs on that specifically hit in like not a sad cry, like a feelings cry, but like a joyous,
empowering,
recognition and empowering kind of cry. There's some songs like False Self, her bigger single for that, which was Symptom of Life, which was the song that she performed on the Tiny Desk that made me think, maybe I should listen to this album. Fucking outstanding. But I think one of my most recent memories, it's kind of silly, but I was in the infrared sauna listening to Unreal Unearthed by Hozier. Mm-hmm. And yeah, I was fucking crying throughout so much of it, because so much of it is so like painfully beautiful, which is just the truth about that man, is that he's got a really good way of communicating something that I think resonates with the softer male, the softer male. You know, like, you know what I mean?
Oh, I hear you.
The person, I'm not going to throw mean words at me, but there are people that
the pussy.
The pussy. Hozier has a way with the pussy.
Yeah.
But that's my thing.
He has a way about him that speaks to the pussy.
That's true.
And I like it.
That and Billie Eilish's other
Love
one.
it.
What was it? The Happier Than Ever. Did you listen to that one?
That's an older one.
That was, it wasn't her newest. That was her second to newest. That was 2000.
Yeah. We've been listening to Hit Me Hard and Soft.
That was pretty good too.
Great.
Yeah,
I love
so
it.
good.
Yeah, I'm big into it. And I was just talking about how much of a nightmare it must have been for her brother to figure out her vocals. I was like, she mumbles and
she does
sings
compilation
so soft.
tracks and multi-tracks everything.
Yeah.
So I guess it kind of just comes out in the math at the end. You know?
Well, it's compression and EQ. I don't know. Yeah, I was just listening to it earlier, and I was just literally we were listening to Birds of a Feather and how soft the chorus is, and then she belts in this album in a way that she doesn't always in her previous releases, and I was just kind of like, man, it's astounding how her vocals sound so consistent through the entire thing, although she's very clearly mumbling and kind of like talking through her teeth in the beginning and then belts, but it stays, I don't know. I'll never understand it, and I love it.
There is kind of something about like knowing how the sausage gets made that takes away a bit of the magic.
Oh, no, I'm into it. Like the way that they did Nevermind from Nirvana.
Right.
Yeah, because he also mumbled and spoke through his teeth, and then when you listen to it now, it's like you're trying to chase that, and that's what I was saying too. Is like Billy and Phineas have done something that's so specific to them that you'll be able to tell now when people copy and paste it, because that's what pop artists do.
Right.
They find something that works, copy and paste it, reapply it to somebody else. Here's the next big thing. They did it with Nevermind, and they've been trying to do it for 30 fucking years, and it doesn't work because that is Nevermind. Nevermind did this. So, like, there's other things that have been influential in other ways. But when you copy and paste this thing that worked so well, it's like, then you can really appreciate, like, Kurt Cobain was a fucking genius.
Yeah.
Billie Eilish and Phineas are fucking geniuses.
They're really good.
Yeah, there's a lot of pop artists that don't deserve the credit. They do.
Happier Than Ever was good, and Hit Me Hard and Soft is really good, too.
Yeah.
I just, when I think of albums that really evoked a good cry, Happier Than Ever was one of them. Mood Swings by Marcus King was another one that recently got a tear out of me, and that's always fascinating for me. Oh, and Integrity Blues. I actually hadn't listened.
Jimmy Eat World?
Yeah, I hadn't listened to Integrity Blues.
That's one of my favorite Jimmy Eat World albums.
Yeah, well, and I like Jimmy Eat World a lot, but I somehow missed Integrity Blues completely. 2016, it looks like.
Great. I would say that there's a song on there. Well, first off, I was saying that I think the last really solid single that Jimmy Eat World put out was probably Sure and Certain. And there's a song on there called You With Me.
Yep.
And that song in particular, I think if you wanted to know...
It's got such a fun pop. Like, I'm honestly, I didn't know the history of this album. I'm surprised that wasn't the single.
Right.
Because it's structured in that way.
It's so theatrical and cinematic is a better word. But what I was telling somebody, because we were talking about this like years ago, actually, it's kind of crazy. My old store manager, her name was April, and I told her, if you want to know what Jimmy Eat World sounds like post Bleed American, it's this. Like this song, You With Me, sounds like Jimmy Eat World. Don't know how to... I can't explain that further, but that song sounds like Jimmy Eat World. And so does a lot of the other... Get Right, fucking... There is a song on that album that I really don't like, but that's beside the point.
Sure.
It's not a no-skips album for me.
That's fucking the nature of music in a lot of ways, you know?
Pass the Baby, I think is the name of the song.
Yeah.
Don't fuck with that one.
It's pretty weak. I don't know. I don't want to throw shit, but I understand that stance. And Wolfpack is another one that has brought a bit of joy. Not tears so much, but I don't know if you've listened to Wolfpack at all.
No.
They're creative, man. It's happy music. You know what I mean? Like that's the purpose of the music, which is such a diversion from my regular course of music.
Yeah, there was we were talking about country music earlier, and I think, fucking to harp back on, we didn't say it on the podcast, but we were talking about South Park. Put a chick in it and make it gay. Skip put the chick in it, make it gay. Orville Peck, country music, make it very, very queer and homosexual. I fucking love it so much. But Orville Peck, Come On Baby Cry, I also like. I don't cry, but I get choked up. The first time I heard that song, really, really brought. Like I get chills really bad whenever I hear a song that I really like. I get chills like all over, and so Come On Baby Cry. And there is a song that really kind of got like an emotional thing out of me, which was fucking the first time I listened to Holy Ghost from Modern Baseball. The first two songs on that album. Like I remember listening to it and just being like awestruck. Like I was like, dude, this is how did you fucking think of this? And then another weird one, July from Noah Cyrus. Just a fucking beautiful arrangement.
Just how you were talking about, like, so I was late to the K Train on Greta Van Fleet.
There you go.
They were one of those bands that somehow managed to escape my radar, even though, I was peripherally familiar with them. But
if you've heard Led Zeppelin.
Dude, Battle at Garden's Gate, which is their, I think, second major album release, the first two songs get you in the puss. They're so good. And I remember, like, kind of just feeling them, once I got past because sometimes I'm barricaded by my intellectual reception to a song.
Right.
But once I got past that, thinking about these songs, I was like, oh man, this is fucking beautiful. This is one of the things that I love about art as a concept. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean?
Right. And I think that, when it comes down to like, learning how to appreciate shit again is very hard.
It's so hard because we get in our own way.
You get your own biases, and they get more solidified as you get older, and then it gets harder to break those habits. And like, I've been trying to catch myself and call myself on my own shit so much more. And then in doing so, I've been able to enjoy things that I probably wouldn't have enjoyed. Also, unrelated, but also kind of like a callback. The first two times that I cried at a live performance of a song was Hybrid Moments, watching Glenn Danzig, Jerry Only, and Doyle Wolfgang von Frankenstein. They played Hybrid Moments, watched them in Seattle. I was moved to tears because like it was just so many memories associated with that song in particular. Like it was just so much for me to take in at that point in time. And then I flew out to Minnesota and watched Blink-182, and they played Adam's Song. And watching them play Adam's Song with like the backdrop that they had, I did cry. I couldn't help it. I was like, this is, and when you think about it, like, oh, I thought about this recently. People were talking shit about Blink-182 and like, warranted, whatever, feel whatever you want to feel. But I remember reading a review, and it was like Tom DeLonge with his signature nasally, annoying brat, skater, surf, adolescent, prepubescent. I'm like, do you like this band? Like, why are you reviewing this shit?
Right.
With his signature annoying, snot-nosed brat, SoCal, annoying teenager.
Cum suck.
I'm like, all right, his fucking dick suck, butt, ass, dick, fart, fucking. I'm like,
I understand.
what? Yeah, I remember reading that, and I'm like, you know what? I wouldn't want to fucking read this review if I was Tom and like, because they were like, I missed when he used to sound like this. I'm like, you mean his annoying snot nose dick ass Bart fuck barf fuck
Right.
fart face fuck I don't know. There was so many like
Negative
shitty,
adjectives. Yeah.
yeah, like I kind of miss it. I'm like, do you? Because if I was a 50-year-old man, I'd be like, you know what? Maybe I'll fix the way that I'm singing after reading that shit. But yeah, I don't know. That was something I thought about. Like fucking. There was this old skit that I thought of where it was like, you know, you get to be in a movie and you're like an extra in a movie and you watch it with all your buddies and then you're like, let's watch the credits. And they're like, no, it's not really that important. They're like, come on, you were in it. Let's watch the credits. And it rolls and it's like Nicholas Perez, drunk dumbass at party. And you're like, that's kind of how I felt about it.
Taxi Man number 69.
Yeah, I'm like, fuck. All right, well, shit.
It's so hard. And like it does suck because like you said, a lot of the time people get sort of calcified in their biases, in their decisions about things. And it is really hard because you have to catch yourself.
You get more hell-bent, for sure.
Right. It sucks because I think that between that and the prevailing marketing strategy leaning toward short duration media, it's become increasingly popular to see that people just kind of like what I mean to say is people don't really appreciate art. I've struggled with getting back to a place where I'm more actively appreciating it, but I think people don't care.
I don't feel it in my gut the same way sometimes too.
Right.
Where I'm like, no, that's cool that they're doing that. I just don't really give a fuck. Like, and people have been, I've been fortunate enough to have friends like Josh that I was talking about earlier, Josh, Allison, like they've been able to like kind of stoke the fire in me a little bit. Cause I'm like, yeah, I saw that they're doing that. Like, I guess that's kind of cool.
Right. You have to tend to it.
And they're like, no, dude, fucking that is cool. Like they try to like almost like youth pastor energy to like, come on, man, no, it is cool. Like you like music, that's Jesus. No, they do shit like that where like, and I appreciate it because I'm like, you know, we recently went and watched Deadpool and Wolverine. And I got excited in the movie theater, like for the first time in what feels like forever, because the last time I felt that was Avengers Endgame. And then I'm like, everything since then, I'm like, cool. But like, again, my own bias has ruined my experience with other shit because I fucking love The Batman. The Batman with Robert Pattinson. Love that movie. Did not go see it in theaters, and I fucking wish I had, because if I hadn't been such a like fucking mopey bullshit dickhead about it, I might have really, really enjoyed myself.
Did you love the Deadpool and Wolverine?
I did.
Yeah, good.
I had a great time. I liked it more. And you know, I said earlier I didn't like the Deadpool 2 episode that much. It's because I don't love the movie the same way I do the first one. Deadpool and Wolverine is, in my opinion, better than the second Deadpool movie.
I actually just said the same thing to my buddy. I was talking to Kenzie about it just the other day because he had went to see it the day after I did.
I saw it on Thursday night.
Yeah, you have to.
As soon as I could, yeah.
He was talking about how there were jokes in it that he didn't really get, and there were some elements that he didn't love, and I said, that's fine. That's the way that it is. But at the same time, I think it was a better representation of the point of there being Deadpool movies than the second one was.
Or maybe that there won't be another one. You know?
I really, really, really hope that there will not be. I actually feel like that would have been that last scene.
It's a finale.
With Wolverine and Colossus, which was my favorite part to see those two together, even if only casually, and the rest of that party together at the table. That's where it could end, and that would be perfect.
Well, his timeline had healed itself.
Right.
And at this point in time, the other X-Men are still alive. So I don't know. Could be something.
It could be, and I understand that there's a marketing incentive, but from a creative standpoint, I feel like that
would be fine. Yeah.
Fucking drop that drop that mic.
Mic that drop.
Yeah,
sir. They have successfully spread their cheeks and
put the mic down and then drop another mic so that it gets picked up by the mic that's down there.
And I feel in a way where I'm like, either ending would be satisfying to me. I'm like, if I know now that they'll only come back if the story's there. They're not going to come back for the cash grab.
They better not. That's the thing, man. I mean, we've all seen franchises get fucking dead horsed.
Oh,
you know what I mean?
Oh yeah. I've seen people beat off dead horses so many times, and it's just like, man, let it be. You can't only beat a soft dick for so long.
Consumerism, you get chafed, man. Consumerism has in a lot of ways been that other prong. So I believe that the prevalence of short duration media, but also the marketing incentives revolving around art have really dramatically impacted the quality of art that's put in front of people.
Yeah.
Whether it be the quality of art in general, I wouldn't necessarily make that claim, but the art that you see, the fact that Cars 7 or something comes out is... I don't know where they're at. Honestly, I liked Cars 3 well enough. But the point...
Well, that's a good stopping point. They fell off on 4, 5, and 6.
Right. The point is...
Toy Story 5. Why?
There are bad incentives in place. And that, I think, has a negative implication on art because we're, at the end of the day, all trying to make a living. And some people think that one mega yacht is not enough.
Right. That's cool. Is this where we're putting a bow on it, or we got one more?
I actually think that it might be. I just had one other note, and it's really just for the future of this podcast. I kind of hope that in subsequent episodes, which I anticipate to exist, we get more time to talk about albums or other pieces of art because that's fun.
I think I'm making a petition for role models next time around.
I'm more than happy to talk about role models. I have a couple really funny notes. I was actually, earlier today, I sent my wife a text message that says, "Now let us gingerly touch our tips," because I had typed that out when I was watching role models and forgot that I left it open on my computer and responded to her in a text message without reading what was in the print.
God.
She responded to me with, "What?"
Rub-a-dub-dub. That fucking part always gets me. And when he said, "We got the butt suck chipmunk ass butt." Yeah, that's a good one. All right. Well, here at Visceral Musings, this is the conclusion, the epic conclusion of Season 2, Episode 10, which will be also the conclusion of, this is us putting a bow on Season 2, kissing it on the forehead and sending it to bed. Which, what better way to go out than to have our episode, our podcast, Nicholas Oz Perez, who I usually just call, the only time I ever call you Nicholas or Nick is in this context. But Oz, can't thank you enough for hosting me in your apartment and buying me some alcoholic drinks, getting me all liquored up, giving me your beach plum, and letting me sit here and eat out your afternoon. Now that it is almost 11 p.m. on a stormy night in Sholo, Arizona.
I forget that my eyebrows can't be heard.
Oh yeah. I'll find a whooshing sound.
There you
effect.
go.
Don't forget to follow Visceral Musings on Instagram at Visceral Musings Pod. Follow me on my personal account at That Roller Pig. And before we go, every single week on Visceral Musings, I like to have our guests give us a top 3. So Nicholas Oz Perez, what is your top 3? And I heard you have more than one, maybe.
I do. I've been reflecting on this. I actually came prepared with 2 sets of top 3s. For one, beautiful man. The first one that I wanted to touch on, and feel free to ask questions if you feel like you need to, but you had mentioned not receiving enough kink or sex-related top 3s, so
Okay.
I'm going to give you top 3 porn categories.
Great.
Praise kink.
There we go.
Love it.
Hey, good job, actually.
Oh my God. I'm going to fucking bust. Oh my gosh. Have you watched? I'll talk to you about this later. I can always think of Walton Goggins saying, "I'm about to ejaculate."
Yeah. That's good.
So, okay. Solo cos porn.
What is cos porn?
Cos porn is cosplay, but you masturbate or have sex with like things, I guess. I don't know.
Okay. Get your freak on. I don't care. Spread
Get your freak
cheeks.
on. Honestly, and there's another element of art to how much of their ass, pun intended, people put into their costumes. Because a lot of
Or
the times,
take out of.
That's that's also true.
Yeah.
There's just something beautiful about a labor of love, and I'm going to leave it at that one.
And love your labor. Yeah.
And love your labor. And you know those ones where it's like a camera watching somebody beat off? Mm-hmm. Those ones.
Oh, I'm well versed.
I don't know the name of that category, but that's category number 3. And my other top 3 is sensations.
Ooh.
So one of the things that you said earlier kind of reminded me of this. I think my top 3 sensations are like that sort of sprinkly feeling of light rain drizzling onto your face. Like this happened to me actually earlier today, and that reminded me of it. There's something really refreshing.
Sensational.
Sensational. Mm-hmm. Oh my gosh, that's such a fun one too. Cheesecake.
Cheesecake? Is that number 2?
No.
Oh, I was like, dude,
When you said sensational, I was thinking of anyway. So anyway, a long kiss on the forehead by someone that you love and trust. Have you ever been kissed on the forehead by like a spouse or partner?
I have, but not in a way that was like, meaningful. I don't.
It's validating.
Yeah,
Oh my gosh.
I honestly, I'm not even trying to make it. This is not for the bit. I honestly don't think I've ever experienced that. I've been kissed on the forehead, technically, yeah, but I've never had it in a way where I took like significance from it afterwards. Where I'm like, that felt longer than normal and also more meaningful than it normally does.
Now, I want to just to caution you before you go and experiment with this at home. There is a too long, I'm sure of it. But if you
with or without tongue is probably pivotal. I've never been Frenched on the forehead.
Right, you should try it sometime.
Okay.
A la Jermaine Clement in Dinner for Schmucks. And that sort of icy hot, sort of gut and cheek feeling that you receive, like when you get a quick and witty pickup line from somebody that's attractive.
Oh, right.
You know that when their pickup line fucking hits you like a dart, that sort of...
Yeah, I remember this one time there was I was working at
Redacted.
and I was in the window and there was a woman in the drive-thru and I was talking to her and I was explaining to her like something. She asked me a question and I was trying to answer a question and she stopped me mid-sentence. It was like, "I love your freckles." And she was an older woman, and she was clearly hitting on me. And I did blush. I was like, "Holy shit!" I was like, "You got game.
Yeah,
You've got mail."
right. That's that
And
triple.
it's me. I'm male,
That triple 20 dart just fucking got you right on that color.
dude. I felt I gingerly touched my tip to that later on. and was like, "Praise me one more time. Praise my freckles."
I'm telling you, man.
Yeah, I love your freckles. It's like, stop. All right, that's all I got for you, man.
Beautiful.
Yeah, this was great. Thank you for being on. What would a Visceral Musing season be without an episode with Cody and Oz? Absolutely fucking nothing. It would be another Deadpool 2. Not the movie, the episode. Anyway, all righty. Well, thank you guys for checking it out. I'll see you next season. I guess, I got a couple weeks, so. Well, thank you for being here with me, Oz. It means a lot to me. I love you, buddy.
Love you too, man.
All right, let's put a bow on it. Season 2, Visceral Musings.